Greetings from Scandinavia to the Amazon. It's a great pleasure to be addressing this Congress, and we thank Alan Schumacher for organizing this pioneering effort in the emergence of the new shamans of the post-millennium. This year we couldn't make it due to personal reasons as well as new life coming into the world. Next year we will look forward to being there in person, to drinking ayahuasca with our friends and fellow spirits over there. And would like to also bring along and show the video of the first Somahuasca session engaged in the Great Pyramid in 1997. We commend Alan Schumacher for once again bringing together a fabulous consortium of pioneering individuals. This is a most noble effort for our future. We're going to be talking about the implications of psychedelics or entheogens from the most novel hadronic mechanics, which changes the implications of molecular interactions and psychokinetic properties of specific shamanic molecules in a very significant way. In the last few years, modern science, as we've known it, is undergoing a strong erosion. The Einsteinian dogmatism is being superseded by objective evidence that is extremely exciting, especially when we take into consideration the psychoactive molecules and research that has been engaged with the principles of certain psychoactive molecules. It has been demonstrated, for instance, that the speed of light is much slower in water, and that the electrons in water travel faster than light propagates in water. Einstein said nothing goes faster than the speed of light. Oops. What does this mean? Well, in hadronic mechanics, pioneered by Dr. Santilli, pioneered in corporate science, and suppressed in the peer science reviews of the world, it has been discovered that the laws of quantum mechanics actually no longer operate. The standard 3D laws don't operate when you go into the atom at 10 to the minus 13 of a centimeter. The Minkowskian space-time geometry collapses, and you come to something known as the hadronic horizon. We're going to be looking at the hadronic horizon. It's a very unique horizon. It contains a fifth unified field force. Now, this is not theoretical stuff. Most superstring theory is 20 years of theory and no practical advancement at all. In 20 years plus of superstring theory, essentially, you can have it iconographized in, oh, I've had a brilliant idea. What if particles are strings? What can you do with it is the question then. I don't know. And that has been the status quo for 20 plus years with superstring theory, and billions of money funneled into it. With hadronic mechanics, instead, you've got a hadronic reactor, first created in 1998, December 1998, which you'll see now on magnicals.com. It's been taken up by the US Department of Transport, it's been on ABC News, etc. But what does it do? It simulates lightning and creates a new kind of molecule. A kind of high temperature superconducting molecule. Unthinkable in the 80s. High temperature superconductors were still low, way below body temperature. So things like benzene or sewage is brought into a superconducting configuration, which are called magnicals. And they work objectively. So the physics behind it must be correct. The fifth force that is engaged in the hadronic horizon is a unified field force, and appears to be the molecular binding force, and this is where it gets really interesting in terms of psychedelics. The geometry of a molecule, as it is shown classically, it is unknown what the molecular binding force is. Quantum mechanics has been unable to deal with the molecular binding force. However, under hadronic mechanics, the molecular binding force is the hadronic fifth force, the fifth nuclear unifying field force, which has been empirically documented in laboratory conditions many times over, in experiments all over the world. This is indisputable fact. It's just a matter of time for dogmatism to erode. The hadronic horizon, from 10 to the minus 13 of a centimeter in the atom, going all the way to the proton, is a hyperdense medium. There are 7 hadrons which overlap with each other in infinite recursion. The description of classical hadronic mechanics, as founded by Dr. Santilli and other colleagues over the world like Dr. Eric Trell, the horizon of the hadrons are hyperdense, so dense that they're beyond the speed of light. They are infinitely recursive, so therefore are hyperlocal. They are in the heart of every atom, everywhere, as one materia. They're hypertemporal, so they're past, present, and future. This is where a very interesting force emerges, the so-called magnetic monopole that is in the heart of the proton, which releases 8 cycles per second. We all know that. In the Amazon, ayahuasca, harmaline, harmine, has a proton-proton spin-spin coupling of 8 cycles per second in its nuclear magnetic resonance. It engages an electroencephalographic signature of 8 cycles per second. That is a force, a unifying force, that emerges out of the heart of the atom. Okay, back to the molecular binding force. The atoms making the molecule then are kept as a geometry by a force that is everywhere, past, present, and future. Not just non-locally, but in a hyper-dense physical media. Past, present, and future, and is hyperdimensional. Hypertemporality is a new field that's been added in hadronic mechanics. It was first pioneered by Dr. Chris Illert in 1998, who showed that seashells living in time had a geometry that could not be modeled as a living organism in computers, not in 3 dimensions, but 4-directional time. 4-directional time has since become a standard component of living life forms in hadronic mechanics. It appears, and there's great evidence for this, apart from the Nobel-winning work of Illert in 1998. He won the Nobel Prize demonstrating that seashells were growing in 4 dimensions of time, 6 dimensions all together. He's gone up to 8 dimensions in his work following his Nobel nomination. So that the hadronic hypertemporality is a 4-directional time flow. Of course, we experience these kind of things in psychedelic states. The ayahuasca state will give you reverse time, sideways time, especially strong DMT and other tryptamine